I'm sure you're eager to get to coding, and let me tell you, I certainly am as well. But ahead of time, we need to do just a little bit of software setup. In particular, we need to get Mongo installed on our system. So in this section, we're going to walk through the installation of MongoDB on the OSX operating system. So if you're using Windows, pause this video right now, go on to the next section where we're going to cover installation on Windows. So let's continue now with doing the OSX setup. There's a couple of pieces of software that we're going to be installing. First off is Brew, a package manager. This package manager is used to install other pieces of software and libraries on our operating system. Brew is very handy, very easy to install, so this will only take just a couple of seconds to get going. Once we have Brew installed, we're going to use it to install both Node and MongoDB as well. We'll be using Node mostly for tooling of our applications and packaging and kind of stuff like that. And MongoDB, of course, hey, that's our database. What else would it be? Finally, we'll also install RoboMongo. RoboMongo is a GUI for browsing the contents of our MongoDB databases. And so in practice, it's just a very helpful development tool. Now, it's not strictly required for this course that you install RoboMongo, but I suspect once you see it in action, you're going to want to use it. So we'll walk through installation of that as well. So let's get going with Brew. Like I mentioned, the Brew installation is really not that bad. I'm going to open up my web browser and I'm going to navigate to brew.sh. Once here, I'm going to scroll down slightly to the Install Homebrew section, and you can see this big old long string right here. This is an installation script. All we have to do is copy this. So I'm going to hit Command-C to copy it, and we can paste it at a terminal prompt to install Homebrew automatically. I'm going to flip over to my terminal. So here we go, here's my terminal. I make use of iTerm. If you use the built-in OSX terminal, that is totally fine. Absolutely no difference. You'll do fine with either one. So once I have my terminal open, I will paste the installation script and hit enter. Now I've already got Homebrew installed, so I'm not going to go through this particular process, but certainly if you do not have Homebrew already installed, just hit that return key and go through the process. It'll only take just a minute to download and install. Once that's all done, we can move on to our next piece of setup, which is going to be Node. Now, it's probably pretty likely that you've already got Node installed on your system. If you do, no problem. We're going to walk through the installation anyways. So back at my terminal, I can run brew install node. And so this is how we use Homebrew to install packages. We access the library or the package manager with the brew keyword. We say that we want to install a package, and then we just list the package that we want to install. So I'll run brew install node. And I already have Node installed. Oh wait, I forgot. I do not have Node installed. My mistake. I want to go completely fresh. So I took off Node, MongoDB, all that kind of stuff. I don't have any of it on my system. If you already have Node installed, I do recommend that you update your version of Node if you have a version older than version 4. And you can check your current version by running node-v. So you can see in this case I've got version 7. If you have earlier than version 4, I do recommend you update it, and you can do so by running the command brew upgrade node, like so. Okay, so that's Node. Not too bad, right? Well, let me just say, we definitely saved the hard one for last. So the MongoDB setup is a little bit more involved. So let's get started on it right now and just try to get it done with as little pain as possible. Honestly, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Okay, so we're going to be using Homebrew to install MongoDB as well. So I'll run brew install Mongo, or just Mongo by itself. So this will reach out, grab the Mongo archive, there we go, and install it on my system. So installing Mongo is not the hard part. What the hard part is actually running it. Okay, so boom, just like that, it's installed. But again, that's the easy part. Now we got to do the hard part, which is the installation process, or the setup process. So once we have Mongo installed, we get automatically access to a program at the terminal that's called MongoD. When we run the command MongoD, that is going to start up a local Mongo server for us. So let's just go ahead and give it a shot and see what happens. So I'll run MongoD, and I immediately get a big old bunch of output back here. Chief of which, you'll see kind of right here, one of the very last messages that I see is data directory /data/db not found. So this is a little bit of a nasty part of Mongo. By default, it requires to have a directory on your hard drive where it can stash all of its data that it's supposed to be holding. By default, the /data/db directory does not exist, so we have to manually create that directory ourselves. We can create this directory by running the command sudo mkdir -p, and we're going to put on /data/db. Do make sure that you get the first / in there. If you don't put that first / in, it's not going to work quite the way we intend. So let's run this. I get prompted for my password, no problem. And now that creates the directory. So now I'm going to run MongoD again to try to start up my local MongoD server. And again, we get a nasty little error message, but this time it's a little bit different. It says, unable to create or open lock file, something, 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 permission denied. So the permission denied here is the key part. Although we just created the /data/db directory, we don't actually have ownership over it. And so MongoDB is saying, hey, I can't create a file inside this directory. I acknowledge that this directory is here, but I can't create this file inside of it. So we have to actually take ownership of this directory. So this is obviously this is kind of the nasty part here. So taking ownership of this directory is a two-step process. First, I'm going to run the command, who am I? This will tell me the username of the currently logged in user on my operating system. So for me, it is Stephen Grider, which is my name. For you, it's whatever whatever name you gave yourself when you first set up your computer. Now we can run a command to take ownership of the /data/db directory, and we're going to be using this username here as well. So we're going to write sudo change ownership, or chown. We're going to pass in the options -R and V. Then we're going to list out the username that we want to give the ownership to. So for me in particular, it's going to be Stephen Grider. For you, it's going to be whatever was returned from the who am I command. So I'm going to put Stephen Grider. Again, that is just for me. Yours will be different. And then we'll list the directory that we want to change ownership of. So I'll put /data/db. Again, really do make sure you get that first leading slash in there. So now we'll run this command, and there we go. The purpose of the -RV right here was to just print out a list of all the directories that were updated, and for us that is the data/db directory. So now I'm going to try starting up MongoD again, and this time we get a whole bunch of text scrolling. But the very last line this time around says, waiting for connections on port 27017, which means our Mongo server just successfully started up. Perfect, just what we wanted. So there's one last thing to be aware of. I'm going to close out my server. I'm going to flip over to a little diagram. So this is a diagram differentiating two different approaches that we can take for the very last step here. And all it revolves around how we want to start up our MongoDB server. So I'm going to present you with two options, and I'm going to leave it up to you which direction you want to go with. Okay, so it's totally up to you. I'm just going to give you the options, and for the rest of the course, I'll leave it up to you. As we just saw, we can start up a local instance of MongoDB by running the MongoD command at the terminal. The thing is that we can freely start up that server at any point in time, right? I can say MongoD, and I can freely end it at any point of time. If I ever start up the server and then say close out this terminal window, that's going to stop my server from running as well, which might not be what I really want to have happen all the time. To avoid having to stop and restart my server all the time, I can instead use a part of brew called the services. So I can run the command brew services start Mongo. And when I run that command, Mongo will automatically be started up for me at any time that I start up my computer. And then anytime in the future that I restart my computer, brew will automatically start Mongo up again as well. So maybe it makes a little more sense what this diagram is getting at now. We can either use brew services to manage Mongo, in which case we run that one command and never have to worry about anything again. And if we want to stick with MongoD, we have to run it one time and then keep on running it again and again and again over time as well. So again, I'm going to leave the choice up to you. For me, I think the choice is pretty clear. Make use of brew services start Mongo so that I don't ever have to worry about starting up the server manually again. And so I think I'm going to go in that direction personally. So at the command line, I'm going to run brew services start Mongo. And then we'll just see a result here, successfully started MongoDB. And that's pretty much it. So now anytime I restart my computer or I close out my terminal or whatever it might be, MongoDB is going to be automatically started up for me by Homebrew. Okay, that's it for our setup. Just one last time, I'm going to mention it because I won't say it too often again. If you choose not to use services here, if you want to go with starting and stopping the server manually, just remember for everything for the rest of this course, I'm always going to be assuming that you're running MongoD. So it's going to be up to you to remember to run that command ahead of time to make sure your Mongo database is running. All right, so let's continue in the next section where we're going to do our setup of RoboMongo.